We're here in the Lavazza suite watching the match going on right here at Ash Stadium. I'm here with Andre Agassi, and I want to get right into it. I know Nike, one of your big sponsors. We're going to talk about Lavazza in a second, but we got to get right into Nike. This ad campaign with Colin Kaepernick and a lot of high-profile celebrity athletes. Some people love it, some people hate it. What are your thoughts on Nike maybe taking a political stand right now?
Well, I think Nike's had an incredible history of sort of being on the cutting edge and, I don't know, shaking the cage, rattling the boats. I mean, they've done it for a long time. So to sit here and say I understand why Kaepernick is doing it, I too. I love being with Nike. To understand why Nike is doing it and what their motives are. Don't have the luxury of being in that boardroom, so I can't speak to what their end game is, but they certainly built one heck of a company.
Do you think the agenda has changed for athletes? Because when you were winning the Open in the 90s, I don't think people were asking you your thoughts on politics. But now it feels like every athlete needs to take a stand one way or the other, or they're at least getting asked that question.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a heck of a platform, right? I mean, you're in front of a lot of eyeballs, and we have the right to opinions, and you can choose to exercise that right and communicate your feelings. That's your choice. I mean, for me, I do my opinions in the poll booth.
You do your opinions in the poll booth, not publicly.
Yeah.
When you think about Nike or other big companies, are you concerned that maybe just more companies in general are going to just try to pick sides through their marketing, through their athletes, and the way they brand themselves?
Oh, I don't find myself too concerned about how companies run their businesses. I find myself very concerned about what my objectives are. And, you know, I mean, Nike has been a great supporter of the things that I've done. Lavazza has been a great supporter of things I try to find the overlapping values, and I think you see a lot of companies doing that as well. I mean, we can see all the headlines of athletes doing this, athletes doing that, but unfortunately we don't see the headlines of all these athletes that are doing wonderful things as well. And so I try to keep my eyes on the ball.
Do you think athletes should play a bigger role in social change?
I mean, I think athletes are people, you know, and they're have the privilege of growing up in a great country and playing their sport for a living. So God bless them if they want to focus on something besides their craft. I didn't have the energy to do that.
You grew up in Las Vegas. You live there now, raising your kids. We know Las Vegas, the home of gambling on sports. That's going to be spreading across the country now. But with tennis, that's an interesting relationship because we've heard these stories, people tanking matches, and combining tennis and gambling can be tricky. What are your thoughts on that, being a tennis legend, but living in Las Vegas and maybe seeing both sides of that?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you're kind of referring to. If people have made decisions out there on the court at the cost of the integrity of the game, there should be serious governance over that. I mean, I know Vegas doesn't make a living out of, you know, ripping people off. It gives people a platform to, you know, to go enjoy sports the way they want. So we have, you know, our Knights are in Vegas now. We have the Raiders coming to Vegas now. I don't think there's any conflict as far as we see it.
And I know Tyler Matheson has a question in the studio.
You know, Andre, I remember watching you and Sampras play, and it was maybe a peak time for American men's tennis. What will it take to get American male players back to the level of competitiveness that was there when you and Sampras were so dominant? I mean, it's not to say there aren't good ones. Eisner's a good one, if I've got his name pronounced correctly, but generally, they're non-U.S. players dominating on the men's side and also, in many ways, on the women's side.
Well, first of all, if you're not out here sweating with all of us, you're not allowed to ask questions. So let's start with that. No, I'm kidding. You know, you make a good point. I mean, I think you can blame three of the greatest players to ever walk the face of the earth playing in the same generation as one of the reasons, right? Between Novak and Rafa and Roger, hasn't been a whole lot of pickings for anybody else. And last year we saw 4 women here in the semis, American women. So I think the women's game is a different set of circumstances. As far as the men's go, I mean, I'd love to see more clay courts. I mean, it translates way more into the overall year and shot selection and discipline and you know, just basic work ethic. I mean, I think growing up in Europe on the red clay is a big deal. South America, growing up on the red clay is a big deal. I mean, I think there's little things that can be done, but at the end, you're talking about all these countries going through their cycles. I mean, we saw Australia do it, we saw Sweden do it, you know, Borg and Edberg, and Germany do it, and Becker and Steek, and Spain do it with, you know, who knows how many players. So I do think it does come in kind of flows, and it would be nice to see an American at the top. I know it would captivate our imagination and be better for the game.
Andre, I want to get your thoughts on sort of the optics around tennis. I mean, you've been known for crazy outfits, going back to Nike, those jean shorts that were so famous. You've pushed the envelope, so is Serena Williams. But she's been criticized by officials. I mean, that cat suit just a couple days ago. Does tennis need to evolve more in terms of that?
Well, yeah, it's a great question you ask. I mean, I personally like Serena wearing a cat suit, but that's just me personally. I mean, it's. I remember when I was wearing certain things in Paris, they wanted to implement, Wimbledon rules, and I responded by basically saying, well, then get rid of all your sponsorships on the court like Wimbledon does. I mean, it's a business at the end of the day, and every business sort of has that, right to make the best decision on behalf of themselves and the sport at large. And would I pick that battle to fight if I was running a business that wanted to fill up stands? No, I wouldn't. I think Serena wearing a cat suit helps, quite frankly. And if she wants to, more power to her. She gets it done with the racket.
All right, Andre, final question back here where the people are sweating in the heat. Lavazza, a big sponsor of yours. They sponsor a lot of things that you're working on. But I thought sports drinks is what people would want if they're out here competing. I'm not a coffee drinker myself, so convince me why you're drinking so much coffee and you're letting everyone else want to do the same thing. I don't get that quite for an athlete like you.
Well, first of all, I'm not an athlete anymore, if you haven't noticed. Secondly, I'm not competing. But coffee's been an important part of my life, and for training purposes, it's part of all of our lives, right? But Lavazza's support of me, my foundation, my mission, their support of tennis, I find that there's so much overlap with how we've gone about what we both care about and what we both do that the collateral damage is all great. Everybody kind of wins from this relationship, and it gives me a heck of an excuse to come back here and have a flood of memories just come rushing through.